Hey everybody, it's Pete Lang here, the designer CPA, and today I want to talk to you about PPP2 and whether or not it makes sense as your business to be able to apply for that. We're going to talk about the similarities and the differences between PPP1 and whether or not that's available. Now, we found out this week that we got more guidance from the SBA on what kind of businesses and what the details were that would be eligible for this. And now last night we found out that the application process is going to start Monday, January 11th. So I'm going to go over, I have a copy of the actual application that came out last night. I'm going to go over that with you at the end of this video so that you are ready to go, so that when your lender is ready, if you qualify, you can apply right away for this and be done and not have to worry about anything else. It should go a lot more simple than PPP1, and you will be able to receive those loan funds that much quicker. Let's talk about PPP2 information here. This is a second draw loan for the hardest hit borrowers. So we're talking about companies that have 300 or fewer employees, and this key is what makes it different between PPP1 and PPP2. Any business that received a 25% gross receipt decline in any quarter of 2020 compared to that same quarter in 2019 will be eligible for PPP2. All right, so what does that mean? That basically means if you compare your gross receipts, which is everything that you earned from your customers, that total number in 2020 compared to 2019, if you if you had a 25% or more reduction in that for the entire year, you're all set. You know it. That's fine. But what if you didn't? What if your decrease was less than that? What you need to do is go into your accounting software and take a look quarter by quarter. So start with quarter one and compare quarter one 2020 with quarter one 2019. If there's a 25% or more reduction in that quarter, you're all set. You've found a quarter and you're good. You can apply for PPP2. If quarter one doesn't make sense and that happened in a different quarter later in the year, then you got it, then you will be eligible in order to apply for PPP2. So why does this matter? You absolutely have to have accounting software up to date through 2020 if you want to get the answer. Now we're going to talk about different ways in order to have that documentation backup if you don't, but the easiest way to do it is to make sure that you have a good bookkeeper, someone who updates your records quickly and accurately so that you can look back at this comparison right away and see if you can qualify. If you found that you're wondering what gross receipts is, if you received PPP forgiveness already in 2020, or you received the EIDL grant advance, do not include that gross receipt and that amount in the gross receipts calculation. So you want to make sure that your bookkeeper or whoever does your accounting records, when they receive that money, they didn't put that deposit up in gross receipts, maybe kept it separate so that during this calculation, your 2020 gross receipts aren't higher than they actually are for this calculation. Get those items out if they put that in, and then do the calculation and see if you achieve the 25% or more reduction. The last thing that you need to know is that business has to use or will use the full amount of PPP1 draw funds. All right, so let's talk about other stuff when it comes to PPP2. The same amount, that max 2 million loan amount, and the calculation of 2.5 average monthly payroll costs. So that's the same. That part is the same as PPP1. Here's an added benefit of PPP2. So if you've gotten past the point where you know you can qualify because you have 25% or more, you now can use 2019, 2020, or the 12 months prior to the application for payroll costs. So this is good news. When PPP1 came out and people were coming out with that application, they were using the report that maybe your payroll provider used for the amount in 2019 for the payroll, that total payroll for 2019, to figure that out. Now you can look back and you can look at 2020. So if in 2019 you had 3 employees and now you have 5 employees and you retain them for the entire year of 2020 and your total payroll amount in 2020 is higher, you want to use that amount because you will be able to get your PPP2 loan amount is going to be a lot higher. You're going to be able to get more funding compared to PPP1. Now the last thing they do is they say you have 12 months prior to the application for payroll costs to compare. So what does that mean? Well, if they're going to open up applications on January 11th, you're going to have from January 11th to March 31st to apply for PPP2. So if you do it, whatever day you do it, let's just say you did it on February 1st, 2011, you can look back on that day for the 12-month period before, if that makes sense. So if you've got a couple of months in 2011 and it makes sense, and that higher payroll cost is going to allow you to have a bigger loan amount than just looking at all of 2020, then you should go with that instead. Finally, something different here. If your business has an NAICS code of 72, which includes restaurants and hotels and other hospitality businesses, instead of 2.5 months, you can use 3.5 average monthly payroll costs and up to 500 employees. So what they're trying to do is just make sure that they're giving restaurants more of an advantage to get a bigger loan than your average small business would instead. And just like PPP1, you can choose to use either a 8 or 24-week covered period, and that starts the first day of the loan period. Well, as soon as you get the loan funded, that's the first day your covered period starts. So if you use the whole loan in 8 weeks, all the proceeds, and you want to apply for forgiveness, then you can. If it's going to take you more like 24 weeks, you can wait and apply for forgiveness then. Alright, so one of the biggest differences between PPP1 and PPP2 is what you have to include for information at the application. So they split it up between loans under 150 or loans above 150,000. Okay, so let's say your loan application is under 150,000. You're going to still use the 2019 payroll figures, and you nothing else changed. You're going to use the same lender as well. Well, you're going to require no additional documentation that's going to be necessary. You're not going to have to prove with the application that you had a 25% or more decrease in gross receipts. But let me give you some advice. I would hold on to the proof of it. So when you're filling out this application, you're going to see that you need to include that information at some point. Well, if you're going to need that information at some point for achieving, to fill out that forgiveness application, or the SBA can actually come in during the covered period and ask for it at any time, you might as well put away to the side the information that you have in your files. Have it ready. If they ask for it beforehand, you have it, you just send it, no big deal. If you need it when you apply for forgiveness, if you're applying for forgiveness, you've got it there, no big deal. You fill out the forgiveness application and you include it there. There are some certifications that are necessary on this application that we'll look at when we're looking at the actual application, but that's pretty much about it. Now let's talk about loans over 150,000. If your loan is going to be over 150,000, the lender is just going to be looking for some sort of proof at the time of the application for the reduction in gross receipts. So that could be any relevant tax forms, quarterly financial statements, or bank statements. If you know that your whole year was 25% or more reduced, you can include your entire tax return and they can figure that out. Hopefully your accounting records are up to date and you can include that information as well. And if not, they're even going to work with you and try to make it easy and include bank statements as well. That's going to be a bit more work probably. They're going to maybe ask for a bit more and try to figure out how to prove that. So if you have the other two items, that's going to make it. But those three items is what you're going to need if your loan is over 150,000. We're going to see that certification on this is going to be the same as a loan under 150,000. So I want to talk a little bit about what you can use costs eligible for loan forgiveness. So if you're still here and you're qualified for PPP2 loan, if you're looking at all of these costs that are eligible for loan forgiveness, you're going to find that these look very familiar. Payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, utilities, those are all from PPP1. And the 60-40 split, if you remember, they're saying in order to achieve full loan forgiveness, you need to use at least 60% of the loan proceeds on payroll costs. So these are all the same. And then what they did was they added a couple of new costs that are eligible. So this is a way to get more businesses to be able to use as much funds as possible in the loan, and then they can apply for full forgiveness. So what do I mean by new things? Covered worker protection expenditures. If you bought PPE for your employees to stay safe while they're at work, that's going to count. There's also going to be some supply, operations, and property damage costs that are going to be included during this covered period, if that makes sense and it's pandemic related. And you can look at some of the details later if you need to include those and you haven't used all of the funds on those payroll costs from before. If you need some more, you can look at the details on that so that you can achieve as much forgiveness as possible by the end of your covered period. All right, so let's dive into this application that actually just came out last night. So if you're watching this beforehand, you will be able to see what the application looks like. You can print it out on the SBA's website and fill this all out before it's available. But you have, hopefully they're going to be open this Monday, January 11th. Most banks are going to be able to start doing that. And then you have until March 31st. But if you can get this application filled out and the backup that you need and ready for the bank, you're going to get the loan funded into your bank account that much quicker. So let's take a look at what this application looks like and how easy it is to fill out. All right, so looking at this application, some of the stuff that you can see, it kind of looks very similar to the first PPP application. You are going to check which kind of business entity you are. There's some information on when it's established. They're asking for the NAICS code, which you can find on your tax return. That's going to be important. They're going to see whether or not there's a 72 in the front, because then you're going to be able to take advantage of a higher payroll amount and maybe a higher loan amount based on what your average monthly payroll looks like. Okay, so down here you're going to see this line item looks exactly the same as PPP1. So if you save the application you filled out for PPP1 and 2019 payroll numbers is what you're going to use again, this number here, the 2.5 months, is not going to change from PPP1, which basically means your loan amount is not going to change. But if you think your payroll is higher in 2020, you need to get that report from your payroll provider and figure out what the average monthly payroll cost is for 2020, because it's going to allow you to get a larger loan than PPP1. Over here we're looking at number of employees. So if your number of employees have changed since you filled out the application for PPP1, you want to make sure you're including updated information, the number of employees you have today at the time of application. And you can see here the purpose of the loan. These look familiar, and now they've added a couple of other items. So if you're going to use this loan on all of this stuff, you want to check off as much as possible that you're going to use, so that you can achieve the biggest amount of forgiveness and try to get your entire loan forgiven. This information you can get from your lender, first draw SBA loan number, and then you can see here that this is a new thing. This has to do with PPP2, just like I was talking about this reduction in gross receipts. So they are saying that applicants for loans of $150,000 or less can leave this blank, but they must provide the information before seeking loan forgiveness or if the SBA requests. So if you've done your homework and you've figured out that there's a quarter where you qualify and you have that ready, I don't understand why you wouldn't fill this in just so you can have it and you remember why you were proving it. So if it's second quarter of 2020 here, you're going to put that here. Second quarter of 2019, you're going to put your gross receipts amount here for that quarter and the gross receipts amount here for that quarter, and just confirm that absolutely you're using one that's 25% or more reduction between the two quarters, and you're going to be all set and ready to go for forgiveness at the time of the end of your covered period. You want to list any owners here, and then now you're going to have some questions, and these questions look very similar to PPP1, but you want to answer yes or no to any of this stuff here. It looks like there's some questions on bankruptcy, defaulted on loans, let's see, common management. There's felony questions, embezzlement questions. Is the place of residence for all employees included in the application all United States in the United States? So you only want to include the employees that you have in the United States. They want to know if you are a franchise, and they want to know if you're listed in the SBA franchise directory. So you can answer yes or no based on your unique business. And then this is the second page. This certification this certification information that we talked about here. You can read all of this to make sure that you agree with all of this before signing. And then they want you to initialize these items. So they're going to talk about the items that you need to certify. So we talked about that. So this is whether or not your loan is less than 150,000 or more than 150,000. So anyone besides just the 25% reduction in gross receipts, you need to make sure your business hasn't permanently closed, that there's current economic uncertainty making the loan request necessary to support the ongoing operations of the applicant. So you're basically certifying that your business is in need of this loan at this time. Let's see, they talked about the 25% here, that you received a first draw Paycheck Protection Program loan, so you had a PPP-1. The funds are going to be used to retain workers and maintain payroll. You want to make sure that it's at least 60% if you want to apply for forgiveness. That you will not receive another second draw. You can only get one PPP loan, second draw PPP loan. The applicant has not and will not receive a shuttered venue operator grant from the SBA. And then let's see, there's some other stuff down here that you can read as well. Once you've initialed all of these things and certified that that makes sense, you sign and print the date. And that's it. It's a very simple 2-page application that's a heck of a lot easier than when we first saw this the first time in PPP-1, and there was all of this confusion on what that is. So if you use a payroll provider, they are going to already be up to date. They've already built these reports for you, so it'll be very simple for you to go in and kind of check. Just make sure the 2019 number is the way to go. If your 2020 payroll information makes it more advantageous to get a higher loan amount, you want to use that and have that readily available. Now you can go on the SBA's website and print out a form 2483 SD form. Make sure you print that out and fill it in and get that ready for next week, so that whether or not you have to actually include this form, some banks might do that, or if you have to fill out the online portal application based on your customized lender, they might do that as well, but you've got it all written down. So it's very simple, it's right there, and as they ask the questions, you have it all here to sign in. So if you know of any other business owners that had that took out the PPP-1, they had it the first time, and they're wondering whether or not they're going to be eligible for PPP-2, please share this video with them so that they can be ready to apply before the March 31st, 2021 deadline as well. And if you're interested in more topics like this, tax, accounting, personal finance, that kind of stuff, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so that when I produce more content like this, you will be ready and you'll get a notification right away. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you all very soon.